Have you ever wondered how the world descended into the chaos of the First World War? Our story begins at the dawn of the 20th century, a time when militarism was on the rise. Many nations were engaged in a tense arms race, amassing formidable arsenals that would later fuel the fires of war. This was a time of alliances, intricate webs of promises and obligations that bound countries together. These alliances would soon transform a regional conflict into a global catastrophe. Moreover, the world was caught in the throes of imperialism, with great powers vying for colonies and global dominance. This competition bred animosity and mistrust, adding fuel to the burgeoning flame. In the heart of Europe, nationalism was reaching a fever pitch. People's intense pride and loyalty to their nations often blurred the lines between patriotism and aggression. Then, on the fateful day of June 28, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary was assassinated. This act of violence was the spark that ignited the powder keg. Thus, the world was set on a path to a war of unprecedented scale. Opening. As the world braced for war, the opposing alliances prepared for battle. The alliance system ignited the war like a powder keg. The intricate network of treaties and obligations called nations to arms, escalating a regional conflict into a global one. The Central Powers led by Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire faced off against the Allies, primarily France, Russia, and the United Kingdom. In the West, the war quickly descended into a grim stalemate. The Western Front, a labyrinth of trenches stretching across Europe, became a symbol of the war's brutality. Soldiers hunkered down in these muddy trenches, living in appalling conditions, constantly under the threat of enemy fire. Warfare was revolutionized with the introduction of new weapons and technology. Machine guns mowed down waves of soldiers while tanks rumbled across the battlefield. The skies buzzed with the sound of airplanes, a new addition to the theater of war. Meanwhile, on the Eastern Front, Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire were locked in a grueling conflict with Russia. This front was marked by its vast scale and fluidity, but it was no less devastating. In 1917, the United States, initially committed to neutrality, entered the fray. Their involvement was prompted by Germany's unrestricted submarine warfare and the interception of the Zimmermann telegram, which proposed a military alliance between Germany and Mexico. Simultaneously, in the East, the Russian Revolution erupted. The Tsarist regime was overthrown, and a Bolshevik government, under the leadership of Vladimir Lenin, took power. This seismic political shift led to Russia's withdrawal from the war, changing the dynamics of the conflict. As the war raged on, it was clear that the world was changing in ways that would be felt for generations to come. The old order was crumbling, and in its place, a new world was being forged in the fires of conflict. This was not just a war between nations, it was a struggle for the future. Closing. As the war raged on, it was clear that the world was changing in ways that would be felt for generations to come. The end of World War I was just the beginning of a new world order. The final act of this global drama was the signing of the Treaty of Versailles. On June 28, 1919, representatives from the Allied and Central Powers gathered in the Hall of Mirrors in Versailles, France, to formalize the end of the war. This treaty, however, was more than a ceasefire. It held Germany responsible for the war and imposed harsh penalties. Germany was required to surrender a significant portion of its territory, limit its military, and pay substantial reparations. These conditions bred resentment and economic instability, setting the stage for another world conflict just 2 decades later. The human cost of World War I was staggering. An estimated 9 million soldiers lost their lives, and countless more were left wounded or missing. Civilian casualties were equally devastating, with millions more lives lost due to the war's indirect effects, such as famine and disease. The world was in mourning, and societies were forever changed. Yet amidst the devastation, there were attempts to create a lasting peace. The League of Nations was established in the aftermath of the war, with the noble aim of preventing such a catastrophic conflict from ever happening again. This organization, a precursor to the United Nations, sought to promote international cooperation and preserve global peace. Unfortunately, it faced many challenges and was ultimately unable to prevent the outbreak of World War II. In many ways, the aftermath of World War I was as complex and far-reaching as the war itself. It redefined national boundaries, altered political landscapes, and ushered in social changes that still resonate today. World War I was a turning point in history, shaping the world as we know it today. The echoes of this conflict and its aftermath can still be heard in our current geopolitical climate, reminding us of the enduring impact of our past on our present and future.